Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of Home Theater Gurus. In this one we're going to be covering the fabric track, the Fabricmate fabric track. We're going to go over, basic installation, how we roll the fabric into it, and looking at the tools that come with the kit. So as you can see, we already have some of the walls done. Should finish them up today. The acoustics are done behind, the fabric. You can look at these edges. You see how this black right here is actually ½ an inch below the blue. If you look at how clean that edge is, things like this are something that you're not going to achieve without fabric track or something. Well, really without fabric track. You can try to DIY this. I've done it for years where I would just use blocks or blocking and nail to the blocking or staple to the blocking and then try to hide those staples. But with the fabric track, it's, perfect edges. It's really a great result. Now, of course, right here we've still got some slat diffusion to go on over that suede black. These are all suede. We kind of went with suede just because it kind of breaks it up from just a solid color, makes it look a little more character. All right, so the fabric track. Of course, we've already kind of gone over it, but this right here, I think this is the FS230, which is a double bevel, and that's what gives us this look right here. And it accepts fabric from both sides. And like, see, we've already landed half of the fabric. We're going to come back with another piece here. But there's a gap that the fabric's going to go to. And you see, we've got this tool right here. This is the 4-in-1 tool. You can fit it into corners, help to push the fabric into the track. But right here is a seam, which you'll see that seam right there, and it just pushes into it. And really what I've been doing is I'll use this 4-in-1 tool and I'll tack it in a couple places, like this large panel right here. So I'll tack it in the top, tack it in the bottom, then on this side, then on that side, then I'll kind of get my corners. And once I've got it well tacked, I'll just take this roller and we'll go ahead and push it in right there. And we just roll it in. Now, it actually, the more you roll it, the more it pulls. Like it's pulling the fabric into the track. So you have to be careful because it may pull, if you're not tacked well on top, it'll pull it clean off of the track if it's only just tacked, in a couple places. So there's definitely a learning curve to it. And the first panel I did was this one. And this is my first time with it. I've always done the old school method. But it was some work, because just kind of figuring out the tools and how everything, how it rolls in. And then you're working with two pieces of fabric right here. So I didn't worry too much about this edge. I got it looking good, but when I rolled in this second edge over here, it really tightened up and cleaned up the first one. And I got a little touch-up paint. You can see up there, I kind of boogered up the wood. And that was because this roller right here, you're having to put some pressure. You're having to force this fabric into that small spot. It's got a roller bearing on it. It's very well made. You have to put some pressure on this thing, and I accidentally, you see it's got that little section right there to kind of keep you off the walls as much as possible. It's nice and thin, but I got it. Now, of course, when I did this one over here, I was better. I'd already done that whole side over there up to where the blue stops. We're going to be hitting gray after this. That's why I jumped over here to finish the blue. But, I got better. You learn pretty quick how to use, the tools and how to make them work for you, not against you. But anyway, so we've got the Pro Roller tool. They have the Pro Series and then they have like a Consumer Series. So this is the Pro Series. And we've got the 4-in-1 tool right here. Again, you can use that for corners. Like right here, if you just wanted to shove that corner in if you were having trouble getting it. You can also use this end. We've also got the rocker tool. Now I use this a lot. This is good. It's got that little sharp point right there just for dabbing it, poking it in, getting it set up. And then like some places the roller tool didn't work well. I think this fabric is so thick I'd filled that channel up so much the roller just wasn't working well, so I used this to get that edge. So this is really handy too. Now for the fabric track itself, for installation, get you a little shot, and you can see right there where all the fabric gets rolled up and pushed into this channel. So it'll hold a good bit of fabric, but like that black is just so thick, I think it fills it up fast, and I had a little too much on the edge. I didn't cut enough or close enough, so I pushed a good bit into that channel. But anyway, for the fabric track itself, I use sheetrock screws and I use my laser level have a Bosch right here. Highly recommend getting one of these. It's got an attachment, you can see right here where it's got the little grooves. You can hang it on the wall and everything. I mean, it's got all these fine tuning knobs where, I mean, you can get it perfect. So I would just hang it on the wall. I would get this side of the track, and then I would swing it over and get this side. I mean, it worked just great. Everything's perfect, everything's square. You know, now the room may not be level. You need to worry about that because you got these parallel lines. You know, if your floor is way off, but you put your track level and your floor is not level, you may see that. Same thing with cabinets. You know, you never use a level for your cabinets unless you verify the floor is level, because if the floor is out, you hang the cabinets level, it's not going to look right. You know, line of sight, your eyesight is what matters most, parallel lines. So you need to verify that first. But this room was decent enough where we just used that. Saved me a tremendous amount of time. I was able to follow that laser and set all this track up. But you can use sheetrock screws like I did here. Now I use the sheetrock screws just to get it, you know, initially lined up, get everything perfect and get it done quick. Now, if you go to the Fabricmate website, they've got a lot of good videos and they show sheetrock screws and crown staples. And really you need to have this stuff well fastened. You know, if you just had a screw here and, you know, a foot over, you have another screw, you'll get some flex in the middle. So I went back with the crown staples and stapled the crap out of it. I mean, I've got, you know, within every 3 or 4 inches, some places, you know, less than 3 inches, I've got a ton of staples. And that's gonna keep it from moving when you go to press the fabric into it. And I just have a cheap Harbor Freight crown staple. These are probably, I don't know, 9/16, you know, crown staples. Plenty of depth to get into that wood. Now, Fabricmate shows you stapling into sheetrock. I want something a little more stout. Plus, I need to shim the 1/2 inch track away from the wall to accept the 2-inch acoustics. And actually, it's 1 1/8, or I'm sorry, 5/8 inch thick track. So I'm 2 1/8 out from the wall. So actually, my acoustic panels, if you notice, I'm pressing just a hair, I mean, just 1/8 inch behind it, and I'm hitting my acoustic material behind it, which gives me a little bit of room for play. If I have a little tape or something, or if I have something behind the wall or a bump in the wall, it gives me a little play so I don't see the panel protruding through the fabric. So yeah, this works great just to finish it up before you do the track or before you install fabric. And also they show this on the Fabricmate website. It's a small little foam sander or sanding block, and you can replace the ends or the pads. Works really good just to get in there and touch up those corners. You know, if you feel something that doesn't feel right, you may even need to shim. You can see right here, I put a little shim with some glue behind it because this edge and this edge weren't perfect, and I wanted them perfect because you don't want your fabric to show any flaws. So, you know, just go around and sand. You can see I sanded here. In any places where you think you may see white, like if you look up there at those corners, there was, when I did some test samples, I could kind of see a little speck of white. So I hit it with black just to be safe, just to make sure. I do have some track in black, but right now they just, most of it, they just have natural, which is no big deal because as you see over here, I mean, you're not gonna see the actual track once you're done. So, and also we have the chamfer cutters. These are really, really nice. And they've got degree marks on them, and you use that to cut your track, or you can use a miter saw. I use both. I mean, these will hurt your hands after a while because you've got to, you know, the track's some really good plastic, so it's kind of hard to cut through even with these really nice chamfers. So the miter saw with a fine tooth blade is really, really nice. I think I've got a 140 tooth blade. I mean, it's not something you're going to want to cut wood with, maybe trim, you know, small trim. But it works great for the plastic. If you try to use an aggressive blade, you're going to chip the blade up. So yeah, I mean, it installs well. There's lots of videos on their site. You look at high-end rooms and you wonder how they got those walls or those cool designs. I mean, this is it. And again, if we have any problems, we can rip that fabric off. Believe me, that first panel right there, I think I did it like 3 times where I actually had to rip most of it off and do it again because I would pull too hard on one side and I didn't have enough on this side, you know, after I already trimmed it, and I kept screwing it up. But like I said, after that, I kind of flew through the rest. Now you do have to get on it because you are fighting all of this fabric into that track. Especially, like I said, the thicker fabric. I mean, this right here is some really thick stuff. You know, and you get that bunched up and you're trying to force it into the track, you know, it's not going to want to just go on its own. You're going to have to make it go. So if you order the Pro Kit from them, you know, you're going to get all this stuff right here. And you also get this hold it stick stuff. And the idea with that is it's kind of like chapstick. You just wipe it on the track. And so that way, you know, this is used in schools and auditoriums and offices, you know, the track with fabric. I mean, you've probably seen it several times, but you know, people with office carts bump into the fabric, kids, you know, kick it at the bottom. It helps keep it from coming out of the track. Now, if it comes out of the track, of course, you can get your tools, simply roll it back in. But that hold it stick is supposed to help that from happening, or help keep it from happening where it won't slip out of the track as easy. They also have like a, you know, non-pro kit, you know, where some of the stuff is plastic, like this is plastic, but I mean, as hard as you're having to push on this stuff, the metal and the stainless steel is really nice. But you know, you get all this, some nice shearing scissors, and it also has a sharpener in the box too. And you have this over here, which is called the helping hands. And this is, say you've got a wrinkle, you know, a wrinkle right here where you need to get it, you need to pull some extra fabric down. You can use this, and it actually kind of grabs the fabric without hurting it and gives you some slack, so you can get a roller tool in there and tighten it up. So I mean, that's pretty handy. Definitely something you want to keep for the long run, you know, especially if you have kids and stuff like that. They may bump into the wall. Not saying you're going to have any problems. I mean, this stuff, it holds very, very tight. You'd have to really knock into that wall to cause any problems. Now we are going to be putting some base at the bottom down here. That's why it's just stapled. And also right here, we're going to have panels along the screen. So that edge is stapled. We're going to have crown and base on the columns. And that's going to kind of make those columns stand out. We're not going to have crown anywhere else in the room. But and we'll have smaller base at the bottom, something nice and clean, then like a larger base with the columns to kind of just make them stand out. And I almost didn't go with a base. I mean, you can do track all the way to the floor, kind of like we did. I don't know if you can see it, but I mean, basically just like it is there, just where it just terminates, you know, an inch from the ceiling or right up next to the ceiling. You got to have a hair to allow the track to opening. But for the floor, I just, you know, vacuum cleaners, and we are going to have kids in here. Just feels safer to have a baseboard, so I just stapled it at the bottom. I'm going to cover those staples with base later on. But again, if we have a problem with our speakers, we can easily get behind our speakers, just pull the fabric back, and then we can work on our speaker, swap speakers, you know, upgrade, whatever, put the fabric back in. If we don't like the color, no problem, we can change the color. And actually this blue, I didn't think I was going to like it, but now that it's in here, kind of loving it. I mean, it looks really nice. And then we're going to have a gray back here. Now I was going to do this centerpiece with a black, but now I'm thinking we'll see how the gray looks. I may bring that gray on through. I'm not really sure yet, but it's looking really good, and I'm really impressed with the fabric track and really the outcome and just how well it looks. I mean, it's just looks really, really good. If you're interested in the fabric track from Fabricmate, look down the description. You'll see an email for Jerome. He's my contact over there. Just let him know I sent you. And while yes, there is a little more work to getting this stuff installed, and I mean putting the fabric in, I mean, you know, it takes a panel or two before you get good at it. You know, I'm not gonna say I'm great at it, but you know, where that panel took me an hour, this panel took me about 20 minutes. So I've sped up considerably. So it's a quick learning curve, but if you want a really, really high-end result, you know, give it a thought. Think about using that versus the old method. And I mean, home theaters are not cheap, so investing a little bit of money into something like that, it makes a lot of sense. All right, guys, the next video I'm gonna shoot right after this. We're gonna kind of go over the system itself. Y'all have a good one.